my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to thee, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. So you can tell from the music this morning that we've taken a dark turn. Both hymns have been in a minor key, and this is that hinge story in every of the four Gospels. It's in every Gospel. When Jesus asked the disciples, who do the others say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And then he sets them all straight and says, what I am is not what you said. What I am is someone who's going to be betrayed, who's going to be tried and sentenced to death, innocent, killed, and then again in 3 days he will rise. There's a total disconnect between what Jesus is working toward and thinks his disciples understand and what they hear him say. They're nodding, and they say, like we get up and say the creed in the service, they're saying the right word, but their idea of Messiah is not what he is. We understand Messiah to be the risen Lord that's up there in our mosaic, that is one who has experienced suffering, who has been rejected, who has been beaten and hung to death and tortured and died and rose again. So that resurrection is part of what we understand about Jesus, or do we? Because when you actually take these readings and apply them to our lives today, which we're supposed to do, they're speaking to us, there is a disconnect with every Christian, because none of us can comprehend the immensity of God's abundant ability to resurrect. That where there is tragedy, there is always something new growing out of the ashes. That where there is death, there is always resurrection. And that faith is not about repeating platitudes and saying prayers, but about embodying the faith of Jesus Christ and becoming death and resurrection. So let me explain a little bit. When Jesus asked them to say, what do others say that I am? He's asking, what does the culture say? So we can do the same and say the culture says that Jesus was a man, right? There's a historical Jesus, and there's a whole movement of Christians that say he was a man, lived a long time ago, said many wonderful things, read his words, he has something to teach you. They do not stress the death, resurrection, and life of Jesus after his life on earth. Most of the stress is on who that man really was, what he looked like, what his voice sounded like, what he actually said. Then our culture today, if you ask people, what does your faith mean to you? I'm just answering from my own experience. Episcopalians usually say, well, I believe in the Book of Common Prayer. I'm an Episcopalian, I believe in going to church. But we don't get too far past that, most of us, because we really haven't had any experience in talking about our personal connection to the Jesus who died for me. And that's where we have a long way to go. We have a big disconnect also. Our liturgy that we do every single Sunday and every single Tuesday, and whenever we do a Eucharist service, welcome back, kids. Nice to have you back. What we do after the sermon is we say the what? The creed. So it's us saying back to Jesus, this is what we believe. We say what the people believe, and now we say what we believe. We say the creed, right? And then most of us kind of disconnect while we're saying the creed, because we know it by heart, and we've had an encounter with what the words mean somewhere back then when we got confirmed. And we don't usually confront ourselves with that again, because we did that, right? It's past history. We just believe. We have this ability to forget the alive nature of our struggles and our misunderstanding of our faith, our own faith, that we all come to worship together. This is what we're doing on a Sunday morning, is confirming that we're together in this and you don't have to struggle alone. After the prayers of the people, we say the confession. And the confession is fessing up to, I didn't love you enough, I didn't see you in that tragedy. I saw only tragedy. I'm saying, woe is me all week long, and forgetting that there's resurrection around every corner. We have so much to be forgiven that we have no idea of the graces that we receive. So how are we supposed to do this other than reading these words and knowing that these words are speaking to our heart? So when Jesus says, "Who do you say that I am?" go home and look in the mirror. Who do you say Jesus is? Does Jesus give you hope when you are depressed or absorbed in worries over your child or your sister or your father? Bonnie Kiefer's father died yesterday morning, and my thoughts are with her, so she's consumed with grief. And yet there is life. There is life. She said she saw her father's face and saw the beautiful smile on his face as he died. So even in death, there's a hint of resurrection. Each of us has a personal responsibility once we leave to stay in touch with each other. I didn't think I was going to say that, did you? Our responsibility as a community is to be community and to know that each one of us has no idea who Jesus is. If Jesus looks at you and says, "Who do you say that I am?" I have no idea today. But please teach me, O Lord. Please teach me who you are. Please show me where, when I am self-absorbed, there's something you want me to see outside my little cyclone of self-absorption. Please show me that somebody needs my prayer today, not anyone else's, but my prayer. Lead me to where you need me. Let me feed the people who are hungry. Let me put the shoes on someone who has no shoes. Use me. And then at the end of the day, we can say, I didn't see grace here, and I didn't see grace there, and I didn't think large enough when somebody said, "Who is God for you?" None of us can think large enough, and that's why we need each other. Each of us has a different idea of who Jesus is, and is that idea okay? Yes. There is no idea about Jesus that's not okay. What Peter got wrong, and it's not just Peter, he was speaking for the whole group of disciples. They all were facing Jesus while Jesus was saying, "Get behind me, Satan." He was looking at every one of them. They think that Jesus is going to rescue them. They need to think again. We are the rescuers, not the ones who get rescued. We have agency in our faith. And Jesus says, "I'm going to die, and you are going to run away." And let that sink in, that we are the ones who let him down, but we are loved abundantly. So those two things are always together. We are shown through our cracks where grace can shine through. Grace shines through, but we have to be open with our brokenness. We're not good at that. That's why we need each other. Amen.